Millions of people think this is a government plot. They're wrong. And the truth is worse. Right now, across the internet, millions of people believe that someone is breeding infected ticks in a lab and releasing them into the forest on purpose. It is one of the most viral fears online. We will have a look if there is evidence for that, but the reason it spread to millions of people is more disturbing than the lie itself, because there's a number researchers use to describe how fast this is really spreading. When you hear it, you'll understand why some of them have stopped saying it out loud. We'll get there. And there's one more thing I'll tell you up front. One of the so-called solutions to this is already loose in the wild. We'll get to which one. This is a story about a parasite, but it's really a story about what happens when something real becomes impossible to control, and fear runs faster than the facts. The thing on the blade of grass. To understand the panic, you first have to meet the thing it's about, and it's almost nothing. It doesn't run, it doesn't hunt, it doesn't make a sound. It climbs to the top of a blade of grass, lifts its front legs into the air, and it waits. For a day. For a week. For as long as it takes. Scientists call it questing. A young tick is the size of a poppy seed. You could be carrying one right now, on the back of your knee, behind your ear, and never feel it. Because as it bites, it numbs the skin. The tick doesn't want to kill you. It wants you to never notice it's there. That's what makes it good at its job. And what it can leave behind is where the fear stops being silly. A ladder of things that get worse. Quick gut check. If I told you a single animal bite could make you allergic to bacon for the rest of your life, you'd think I was lying. I'm not. Hold on to that because it gets stranger. Lyme disease you've heard of. It's now the most common vector-borne illness in the United States. But Lyme is only the bottom rung. Babesiosis is worse. It attacks your red blood cells like malaria. Powassan virus is worse still. There is no cure, and it can kill within days. But the one that unsettles researchers most isn't the deadliest. It's the one that doesn't kill you at all. Alpha-gal syndrome. A single bite from a Lone Star tick can rewire your immune system so that you become allergic to red meat, to all mammal meat. Beef, pork, lamb, foods you've eaten your whole life, suddenly turning against you, sometimes hours after a meal. Hundreds of thousands of suspected cases trace back to this one mechanism. A creature smaller than a poppy seed can reach into your body and rewrite the rules of what you're allowed to eat. So, the real question is, why is this happening across more of the country than ever before? You can't fence the wind. The answer starts with something that sounds like good news. The forest came back. A century ago, we cleared the Northeast for farms and nearly wiped out the deer. The farms were abandoned, the trees returned, and the deer came back in numbers the modern landscape had never seen. Deer are the engine. One fed female tick can lay thousands of eggs. More deer, more hosts, more ticks. And we didn't just regrow the forest. We built our houses right up against it. Ticks didn't invade. We built the suburbs that invited them. And ticks are built to beat us. They live in leaf litter, in shade, in moisture. Places a spray can't reach without poisoning everything else. You can't spray a forest. You can't fence the wind. And you can't find what's already inside the leaf litter. You can protect yourself. Repellent, long sleeves, checking your skin. But that protects you, not the population. And by the time a health system notices ticks in a new county, they've usually been there for years. You cannot fight what you cannot find. And that helplessness is what pushes scientists toward ideas that sound almost unthinkable. Inside the lab, where the rumor lives, now here's where most people get this completely backwards. It's true, and not a secret, that scientists keep colonies of ticks. They have to. To test a vaccine, to study how a pathogen jumps from animal to human, you need controlled populations. Some are raised clean, some are deliberately infected, because you cannot learn to stop a disease you refuse to study. This is how we beat malaria, yellow fever, dozens of killers. The goal of nearly all of it is to make ticks less dangerous, not more. But here's the foothold the fear grabs onto. If scientists can breed ticks by the thousand and infect them on purpose, what's the line between control and release? What if a container fails? What if someone decides the fastest way to test a fix is to let it loose? There is no confirmed evidence of anyone releasing infected ticks into the wild. But you can see why the fear feels plausible. The tools already exist. They're just pointed the other way. Nobody had to release them. Nobody released them. That's the part that should scare you. Because while the internet argues about whether someone might release infected ticks someday, the infected ticks are already spreading. On their own, faster than any lab ever could. Every warming winter lets them survive farther north. Every deer carries them into a new valley. Every new subdivision hands them territory. Nature is running the exact experiment people are terrified of. A massive, uncontrolled release of disease-carrying ticks across a continent. And no one designed it. No one ordered it. No one can switch it off. The lab-grown tick fear is a mirror. People stare at a sealed container, terrified of what might crawl out, while the real flood is already up to their ankles, which changes the question entirely. If they're already here, already spreading, already beyond ordinary control, what are we actually willing to do to fight back? The solutions that sound insane. So let me ask you something before we go further. Each of these is real, each sounds reasonable, and each one has a catch. Start with the mice, the great reservoir of Lyme. Researchers built bait boxes. A mouse walks in for food, brushes a wick coated in tick-killing medicine, walks out tick-free. In field trials, it measurably cut the ticks on rodents. Then there's an oral vaccine, not for people, for mice. A bait pellet that immunizes them so the ticks that bite never pick up the infection. Real promise in trials. There are fungi, like metarhizium, that kill ticks but spare most other life, sprayed like a living pesticide. There are 4 poster stations that paint medicine onto deer as they feed. And at the frontier, scientists are studying whether you could genetically edit white-footed mice to be permanently immune to Lyme, and let that immunity spread on its own. Remember the solution I said was already loose in the wild? It's the simplest one. Those bait boxes and host-targeted treatments aren't theoretical. Versions of them are already deployed in real neighborhoods. The future everyone's afraid of has quietly, partially, already started. And every one of these tools casts the same shadow. Every thread pulls another, because every solution touches something else. Edit the mice, and you've rewritten a wild species forever. And we are bad at predicting 3 steps down a food web. Spread a fungus, and you're betting it stays where you put it. Cut the deer, and you start a war in every town that loves its wildlife. And there's a quieter domino: trust. When answers come slowly, and the science sounds strange, and the threat is invisible, fear fills the gap. That's the soil the lab tick rumor grew in. Remember that number I promised you? Here it is. The CDC estimates close to 500,000 Americans are diagnosed and treated for Lyme disease every year. 500,000 every year. That's the number some researchers have stopped saying out loud. Not because it's secret, but because it's already a number we don't know how to bring down. The problem was never that scientists are trying to stop ticks. It's that every tool we reach for pulls a thread connected to everything else. One detail I left out, and that's the story. A parasite, a panic, a misunderstanding. You could stop watching right here, and you'd know more than almost anyone. Except there's one detail I left out. Because the part that actually keeps researchers up at night isn't the ticks, it's what comes after them. We are entering an era where controlling disease may mean redesigning the natural world on purpose. We've already started with mosquitoes, releasing modified ones to crash the populations that carry dengue and malaria. Those programs are real and in places working. But mosquitoes are the easy case. They fly in the open. They breed in water we can find. Ticks vanish into the leaf litter, ride off on animals we'll never catch, and wait us out underground. Mosquitoes were the rough draft. Ticks are the real exam. And how we answer it may decide what kind of relationship we have with nature for the rest of this century. The choice that's yours. So, I'll make it simple. 2 buttons, no middle ground. If tick disease keeps spreading, would you release the engineered cure into the wild? Or would you let nature win and protect the forest exactly as it is, even if more people get sick? Pick one, defend it below. There is no comfortable answer, and that's the point. I read every comment because here's the twist the rumor never saw coming. Are they dumping millions of infected ticks into nature? No, nobody had to. We did it ourselves, by accident over 100 years, and we called it progress. We spent a century afraid of the predators we could see. The one that's winning never had to chase us. It just had to wait, on the blade of grass beside your foot. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.